Hey, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to episode 95. Got the bottom ticker scrolling already. We got a busy night tonight. We got Dresease in the house coming up here in just a few minutes. He's actually got his own giveaway that he's going to do from Canada. So we'll spin the wheel and get that going. We got Kiers Customs. Justin's from Kiers Customs coming in. He's got a great story. We're going to go through that account, which is an amazing account. Um, and then we'll also probably get a little demo of some plastic injection molding that he's doing. We'll do a couple giveaways after that. What is going on, everybody? Thanks for coming in. Jazz Wizard, Zimitco, Grayskull, Dirty Yeti, Slightly Adrift, Linz, Stormico, Pikmins. What's up, dude? Pikmins, thank you, sir. I got your package the other day. You're amazing. Thank you very much. Dre, what is going on? Dre, if you want to jump in the waiting room there, man, I will bring you in as soon as you're ready. But busy night tonight. Two great artists coming up. We got a couple shows to talk about. I'm not sure if everybody heard. I just got the information right before we went live here about the wrestling show coming up from Angry Beast and Lab Monkey 9. That will be coming up in the middle to back end, I believe the 24th of April. That's going to be a super cool show. Bliss, what is going on? And then we got Sewer Showdown on March 19th. That's a Tuesday. We got Robot Resurrection on Easter Sunday. We have a Robot Resurrection wrap-up show on April 1st. We got next week's show is going to be a Sewer Showdown preview. We're going to have 4 different artists on. We're going to have Slime City, Epoxy Crusader, Dimension X, and Titty Bean Toys will all be in the house next week. Uncle Spank, good to see you, man. Uncle Spank, good to see you. Yeah, he's Stormico. He's in the waiting room now, man. He's next on deck. And then we got Sewer Showdown, the wrestling show, and then the GI show that is coming up in May 16th, I believe, is what that one is. So next few months are going to be extremely busy. And I'm sure we'll be talking about those plenty in the next few weeks. But next week, we're going to do the preview show, and then we'll do the wrap-up show for the G.I. Joe show the following week. I'm sorry, for the Sewer Showdown show. We're going to wrap that up. Actually, and my guest on the Sewer Showdown wrap-up show, I'm going to get together with Abe from Toys on Tap. We're going to combo that one. He actually is doing a piece in there, I believe. But I think between the two of us, we know a large majority of the people that are in that show. So to me, it made sense to do that one together. Dre, whenever you are ready, my man, let me know and we will get this thing going. Are you ready? Oh, you guys are in for a treat on this one. Awesome. Let's go, man.
Hello.
The dance is that's what made it, man. With just the mask, it's okay. With the dance, it's way better.
Okay, let's get serious here.
Dude, so we got a couple of these shows coming up, right? Like the wrestling show. Like I'm hoping that Lab Monkey 9 wants to do something with the wrestling show, but I was thinking of the same thing. Where you're just taking off mask after mask and it's just another character, dude.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Yeah, I love it.
The Creech, you don't see the Creech one very much, man. I saw that. What is that, a Super 7 mask?
No, it is not. That is a Walmart special.
Yeah. Even better.
Yeah, and it was on reduced aisles, so it was like $2, I think, after.
Oh man, what a steal!
Yeah, and that's Canadian, so like 2 cents American, right?
I was gonna say, what country did you buy that in, man?
Yeah, I bought it here in Canada. Yeah.
There you go. What part of Canada are you in?
I am just south of Toronto in Ontario.
Okay.
Burlington, it's called.
Burlington, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So 40 minutes north of Niagara Falls.
gotcha. All
Yeah.
right. And for everybody who doesn't know, man, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Andrea Lakale. I'm known as Dresease online on Instagram. Dresease, Bry. Dresease.
I was just gonna say, okay, so last time, and actually when you jumped on here earlier, the first thing I should have said was just say it one time, man. I'll get it. Just say it one time.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
I
Well,
got it.
we did that little pre-meeting earlier, and I'm poking fun. I love all the different names, the Doctorees, the Dresees. It's hilarious.
Dr. Ease. I forgot about that one,
Yeah,
man.
that was
a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Dude, so I was thinking about where you're at in Canada and your proximity to Toronto.
Yeah.
And I went back through your feed, which goes back a few years. What was it like in those early days before you started posting toys? Number one, were you into them? Obviously, probably not like you are now, but being in that area, man, it just seems like pre-COVID, there was a lot of stuff going on in Toronto in the toy scene with in-person shows and just all kinds of stuff.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I think before Instagram, I didn't know of this world. Like, I did not. Like, I collected some toys from my youth and whatnot, and then I got on Instagram. I can't remember, was like, let's say like 2018,
Yeah,
2017 or whatever it was, and then I started seeing stuff, and I was like, are people making stuff? Like, that's awesome. And then I went online, and like everyone says, you go on YouTube and you see Craftsman, and then I was like, oh, I can make my own freaking toys. So
right.
that's how it kind of came about. Like, I started I started following people like local talent, like Lab Monkey #9.
Sure.
I saw Toxic Fume toys pop up, and then I would see like Crumbs Blunt. Then I saw you. And then I was like, and then it just started snowballing, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, this is a whole scene here, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. So if you go back through to like the beginning of your posts or the time that you've been posting, a lot of it right away is you don't kind of get into the toy stuff until a little bit later. There was lots of painting going on, lots of watercolors, and then we kind of move into some acrylics.
Yeah.
Is that your background, painting or just art in general?
Yeah, just I mean, like, so years and years ago, like I'd say like high school, I was really into art. After high school, I partied a lot. So there was a bit of a haze for many years, but then in the late 90s, I would say I started picking up acrylic painting for a bit. And then I stopped for many years. And then, as you saw on Instagram, I kind of restarted then.
Yeah.
My wife actually kind of gave me the push. She's like, you need to do art. And so I just started doing a bunch of art. I sold like some of that art here and there. But more and more, it's just, I love doing the watercolor painting. I did like some oil painting for a while. And I still, like, I've got one on the easel here. I haven't touched in forever, but I need to finish. So, yeah. I take forever.
Well, and what's cool, man, is like, so you're going back through your feed and you see painting, and then you see there's one figure that you painted, and then you start kind of getting into actual, toy making,
right,
molding, casting.
Exactly.
So was that period of painting toys, was that kind of the crossover from one to another? That seems like a little bit of a natural progression to have that as the bridge between the two.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was, right? And then all of a sudden, I never really sculpted before, and I was like, I took the plunge. So, like, I kind of dabbled with like that DAS stuff from way back in the day. It's just kind of like air dry clay, and had fun with it then. So then I was like, you know what? Let me try and do a Frankenhead. That the little Frankenhead guy I did, which this is the original one I did.
Awesome piece, dude. So chunky.
Yeah, so that's all done with the 2-part epoxy sculpt, and I loved it because you could work with it and it dries, and then you can kind of chisel it as well. So I kind of like enjoyed kind of chiseling it while I was sculpting. I wasn't just doing the soft style.
Yeah.
And I kind of like working with that in that aspect, right? And then you can sand it down and get real smooth and whatnot. So really love doing it.
So when you started that, man, was the intent? Did you have that? Did you have it in your mind the whole time that, hey, I'm going to sculpt this and then I'm going to mold and cast it?
Yes, it was. Just because, like I was saying, just to revert back to the Craftsman video,
Yeah.
he was showing, all the different types of resin you could use, and I was like, so that was in my head. So I'm like, I'm gonna make this guy. I want him to ride on top of records. I want the little this little guy on the bottom. So the first iteration had these on the bottom, and then I did a cast. I did my very first cast, which was that one. So this is like the one half of the mold and whatnot. It was really chunky. As you can see, I used a lot of freaking silicone. I didn't know my measurements.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it came out, it was successful. And I actually sold quite a few of those, especially to like the 45 record guys. Because it had that little spindle on the bottom and whatnot. So
Sure.
yeah, so and I was like, okay, this is cool. So yeah.
That's a chunky one, man. I think you donated one of those to the show for a giveaway.
Yes, I think I did.
And
Yeah,
it went right back to Canada too.
Yeah, it totally.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So now when you're doing the sculpting and then you're getting into resin and kind of the whole molding and casting portion, besides Craftsman, was there other people locally, like you said, Lab 9, Toxic Fumes, guys that you were actually seeing do this and say, yeah, I think I can do that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I'd see a bunch of stuff, and then I'd watch a lot of videos. There's like the Robert Talone videos as well on YouTube. And it's like he gives you tons of wicked tips, right? So and it's like, so I started like trial and error, and then I'd ask questions around in the community as well to a few people here and there. But all in all, mostly I did it all myself. Like as far as putting my pressure pot together, and it was all through YouTube. Like YouTube is intense, like has so much information there to kind of help you through, right? So
yeah.
And then every once in a while I'll get like painting tips from people, but most people know I freaking hate painting on resin. I hate it. I can't hate it enough, but I've realized I use this spray for when you're doing the 2-part molds. I gotta stop using that because it's total inhibitor. Like it is horrible for painting. So and I can't wash it out. Like I've used alcohol, this, that, and the other, but it just doesn't stay on. So
yeah,
I'm sure there's many artists right now that would be like, give me all the tips and I'll take them all. Right. So
yeah, right. So then after you start the kind of figure making, you start getting into some articulation with the Mandalorian.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a good one too, man. I like that one. Those ones, actually, you know what, man? I'm going to go ahead and bring up your account right here because I think it's right about where I started.
Yep.
Let's see. Is Rufus still with us?
Yeah, he's still with us. Yeah, he's 10 years old. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, nice looking dog, man. So here's some of the painting that we were doing. Did you carve that pumpkin, by the way?
I did, yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
Thanks, man.
Man, just some really, really good painting, dude. How long have you been painting?
I just restarted in 2017. And like I said, before that was like mostly in the 90s and maybe a couple times in 2000, but not so much.
Nice. Oh, that one's cool right there. And then right up here, where we get into some casting.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, iPad drawing on there and stuff like that I have from back in the day, some pencil drawings and stuff.
Yeah. Now, is that something that you still do? Will you sit down?
Yeah, I still draw on the iPad and whatnot to work out ideas and whatnot. So
yeah, nice. And now, is that all? Are you doing? So here's the Frankenstein right here.
That's right.
Man, that's a rad looking piece, dude. I love the look on his face.
Thank you. It was kind of like I was kind of going for that kind of tiki look, but not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wanted to square off like certain points, so it kind of
Dude,
came out exactly how I wanted. So
yeah, you nailed it right there, man. The tiki look, I didn't even think about that, but that's
yeah,
exactly what it is. Yeah, those are
yeah,
nice. So as we're moving forward,
yeah,
you're doing, man, it's so cool because you can kind of see like now you're dropping stuff in your resin. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's way cool.
There's a bee in his head.
Then we get into some articulation stuff.
Yeah, that's when I started doing the Mandalorian. Um,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
Um, what about your latest piece, man? Let's jump way ahead and talk about your ape. Actually, dude, the way that you did this, dance of the magnetized head and limbs, dude.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. That is so dang good.
Yeah, I was thinking of actually making some of those just like that, like static figures, actually,
Yeah,
because I just like the weirdness of it, right? So
it is, man. And I've noticed that before. Sometimes when I'm moving like a big chunk of figures at one time and they just kind of start, coming undone like that, that's what
yeah,
you get, man. You get these weird balls of, and actually, if you put more than, if there's more than a couple makers in there, you start getting all these kind of
yeah,
these cool little indie kit bashes, I guess you'd
yeah,
call it.
sure.
But your APOC 3 piece,
Yep,
that was another articulated piece.
it is. Yeah,
Um, oh man, yeah, those are good. Oh, here we go.
yeah.
These are great, man. Lots of now I know that it's such a generic question, dude, but what was was it just the name and how it was kind of working off each other, or what was the
Yeah,
kind of
it's funny. It's like when I decided to do that, I was like, I go, man, everyone must think this up, Mandalorian for sure, right? And I was
right?
like, I worked, for a while on it, and then I was like, I go on Instagram, I'm like, oh fuck, man, so many people have used that name, Mandalorian, right? But I'm
Yeah,
like, but I'm using a DeLorean car as his body, like straight up.
right.
I'm gonna do it. It's silly. It's like right there in your face, and I knew it was meant to be exactly what it is. So,
Yeah,
and I wanted him to be wonky and whatnot, but he stands, and it was my first time doing the magnet articulation, like you're saying. So,
yeah.
and what I've learned is, getting better magnets for sure. That's for sure. When you buy the cheap magnets, they're just not as strong.
Yeah, that's a good tip, man. Now, when you first started buying magnets, did you? Pretty much everybody that I talked to is saying that, like, they probably went through quite a few magnets before they found one that was
Yeah,
the correct size and power to make
right.
it work for them. Did you kind of go through that same thing?
Yeah, for sure. As because I first ordered off of Amazon and I got some good ones, but then I was like they were horrible. And then I was given a tip about Lee Valley, and they have rare earth magnets, and they're amazing. Like and they come
Yeah,
in I think three to four different sizes, right? So and they're all great. So
yeah. Now, your sculpting, is that something? I mean, all self-taught. You just picked it up one day.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah. I just started going. Now I was like, oh man, I really like feeling the clay and working with it. I've still got to do more stuff for sure. I'm very slow at my process, that's for
yeah,
sure. But
yeah.
slow and steady, I guess, wins the race at some point.
Oh, yeah, exactly, man. Well, I mean, what are you doing besides this? I mean, obviously, this is not a full-time deal. This is
No,
kind of what
well,
you're doing in your
you'd
spare
be
time, right?
surprised. This is kind of like what I do is the art,
Yeah.
um, and I just keep house pretty much. And I used to have a job up until 2017, and then I had an issue with my arm. So
Okay.
I've been off of that for a while, and then my wife's like, just do art, pursue art, right? So and I was like, I'm in a
Nice.
position where I can do it, so I keep
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
yeah.
Absolutely. Um, your header cards, you're doing all your header card art as well?
Yes, which I
Nice.
have neglected in the last little while as well too. So I need to get back on doing header cards as well.
This was a great one, man. This Frankentech was it Frankentech 22?
Yeah,
Um, That was the F is for Frankenstein submission.
That is
What's the
correct. Yeah.
scale on that one?
That one is it's about almost the same height as the recent APOC piece, about 6 inches tall, I think.
Gotcha.
6 or 7. It might say on there, but I can't recall. I do have a couple of those that I'm going to be finishing and putting together as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
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 Man, so you've really gone, I mean, just in the short time that we've looked at that, you've gone from basically no toy making to now you're doing, I mean, this is a 6-inch articulated figure here.
Yeah.
Um, Now that I mean, that you're doing it full time, man, how do you divide that up as far as, I mean, do you have a schedule set saying, you know, I want to work on this and then I'll get really good at this and then I'll move on to something else and maybe, refine this aspect of my figure making. How does that whole schedule play out for you?
Well, that's a good question, and I just go by day. Unfortunately, I'm a bit of an ADHD kind of guy, so I'm like I focus on one thing and then I jump to something else all the time. Like that's just like the way my mind works. So if I start one thing, I need to keep that in the space where I'm working and push the other thing aside. I can't
Sure.
work on two things at the same time. So that's why it kind of takes me quite a while to do things. I've produced a few things. I've got a few things that I'm going to be putting up on my shop, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a broken way of doing things, but I try to do it throughout the week mainly.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, man. Now, are you dedicating like a certain amount of hours to it every day
Yeah,
or just,
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
exactly. I try to do at least 5 to 6 hours a day
Wow.
um, to do stuff. And when I was doing the APOC piece, I kind of mismanaged my time, and I was doing like 10 hours a day. I was just nonstop doing stuff, right? So
Wow.
yeah, kind of overworking myself, but everyone works at different paces. Like you got people like Ocular Rhombus who has like 1,000 pieces at a show. Like I like, Zymot's got a million every other week, right? So I was just like,
Right.
man, I would love to have just 2% of that kind of like stamina, it's crazy.
Yeah, man, those guys are some freaking machines right
Yeah,
there. I mean, as far as on the production,
yeah,
but I think, dude, I think there really is something to be said about pieces that are sculpted from the ground up.
yeah,
Um, no matter what they are, until you get all the way to the molding and casting stage.
for
I
sure.
mean, for me, without being an artist, I see that as kind of like a true from the ground up thing.
Yeah,
It's not a kit bash, even though a kit bash, even if you're, molding and casting, recasting parts,
for sure.
it's something that was already there. But in something like this, it's just all 100% original, man. I really, really dig that.
Thank you.
The picture that we looked at a second ago, is this a digital? Um, what is this?
That yeah, that was like just I had I think I was starting to do that great horned toad, and I just messed around with like stuff on it, and I was like, and that was just a 3D drawing that I came up with, and I was like, oh, I might do that at some point too because I have that saved, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
nice, man. I have one of these, man. I don't know. This one might even
the
that one might
Martian
even be mine.
alien, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those are great. Um, the shows that you've been in, man. Let's talk about those. Um, F is for Frankenstein, D is for Dracula. The last two Apocalyptico shows.
Yeah,
Scraps 5.
yeah.
You got a healthy dose of shows in there, man. What's your favorite thing about these shows?
The favorite thing about the shows is actually gets me on a track to make something for that specified subject. You know what I mean? Like the psychedelic show, like, and stuff like the psychedelic show and the scraps, like you could just go overboard, right? Like you could just go to town and it just opens up your mind to make the craziest things possible, right?
Right.
You know, when you have like F is for Frankenstein, I kind of stay on the path of Frankenstein. I stay on the path of Dracula, you know, with little twists and turns. But I just love the, I guess, the freedom of being able to create something, not really under a tight deadline, but just have what you have and just try to make some new kind of, I guess you could say, Frankenstein creations, right? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. These scraps pieces are that God. I love everybody's scraps pieces. Are always so damn
Oh
cool.
yeah, man.
Uh,
Everyone brought it. It's so amazing, all those pieces.
yeah,
Not mine. I'm just talking about everyone's, but I enjoyed the pieces I made as well. Like it's just yeah, it's phenomenal.
yeah. I think it's the randomness of it, man. I don't know what it is, but it's they always look so dang cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at that one. I know that's not yours, but I mean,
No, that's our
ordinary.
friend Ordinary. Yeah, it's a beauty.
No, man, it's so dang good. Um, mm, yeah, there we go. That's another. That was an original sculptor. I remember that one.
Yes, exactly.
Another chunky one.
Yeah, it's like kind of a play on Chud and Dracula.
Yeah. So your show, man, you got a couple shows coming up, right? We got
Yes.
you're doing Sewer Showdown.
Yep.
You're doing GI show. You're doing the wrestling show.
Yes.
Man, busy.
It's crazy because I think the GI show and the wrestling show are somewhat close. I think they're both in April. Or is the wrestling? Yeah, I can't recall the.
GI show is in May.
Oh, it is May. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was April. Okay,
so May 16th on that one, and then wrestling is April 24th. So I mean, they're within 3 weeks of each other, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'll
be plugging away on that. I'm currently working on my TMNT piece. It's going to be a static figure, kind of like a mash between one of my favorite horror characters and one of the TMNT turtles.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's looking forward to that. Finishing that for sure. Casting that up next week because that's coming up super quick, right? So.
Yeah, man. Actually, you're right. That preview show is next week already, and then it's a couple days after that. It's on a Tuesday, I believe.
On a Tuesday, that's great. I think it's actual TMNT day or something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Now, that's something I brought in Abe from Toys on Tap.
Yeah.
With my fingers crossed that he knows a little bit more about it than I do.
I think he does.
I think he does too. Because he's got a piece in the show. Is that something that you grew up with?
I didn't grow up with TMNT because that was like 90s.
Yeah.
So, you know, by that time, I didn't know too much about TMNT, but I did know about the comics. Through high school, you know, they came out and I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome, right? So I read a couple of the comics. I remember that. And then years later, as many of us kind of do, we recollect our youth thinking of what we would have liked, right? And then I was like, oh, they make some wicked characters. Like I like mostly more of the crazy characters, like the crocodile, all the other stuff, and then it kind of jumps over to Toxic Crusaders for me and stuff too. So, but yeah, I didn't grow with it, but I appreciate it all, like for sure.
Yeah, nice, man. You know, and that's one thing that I thought too is, you know, just from watching a bunch of shows and people trying to collect that whole line, and then the video game, of course. The video game I always played, that was a good one. Even the newer ones are really good.
That was hard. I think there was a hard one on, was it Nintendo? I think? Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. There's a newer one for Xbox that I was playing with Hurt Toys. We ended up getting through the whole thing finally. It took us forever, but
good.
Yeah, dude, it's great. It's a button masher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your hands get a nice workout. But
again, that you know, I have a PS4 and I don't think I've touched it since I've been doing more toys, like in the last like 4 years. Like even during COVID, I have not touched it. So it's crazy.
Yeah. So what you know, during that time, man, were you ever a collector of commercial stuff like that?
Yeah, totally. I do collect like anything that appeals to me. Like, and we're talking like I love the Marx toys from like 60s, 70s, the
Yeah,
plastic figures. Like I love all
nice.
that stuff.
The bigger ones.
Yeah, the bigger ones, even the smaller ones, like the dinosaurs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of like the imperial dinosaurs. Love collecting that stuff. I still do. Like when I go to the Value Village, which is I guess Savers in the States, and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, see some stuff there for cheap. I'll grab another one of those lead painted toys, from back in the day. I collect some of the old Motu stuff.
Mm,
Again, beaters mostly, like I don't
yeah.
mind played with condition. I don't need brand new. And some of the newer Motu stuff I picked up. I'd stopped collecting probably since they stopped getting them here in Canada about a year and a half ago or so.
Mm,
The Origins line and stuff. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and but yeah, I collect like I got a bunch of little ETs, boglins, these things.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
got all that stuff. So I got shelves of stuff here that kind of inspire me, and yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. My next question, man, was going to be, looking at some of the old stuff now. Um, is that, do you ever use that as kind of like the base of some of your stuff? I mean, obviously with the DeLorean car and the
Yeah,
Boba Fett and stuff like that, there's
for
some of that
sure.
stuff incorporated there. Yeah.
Yeah, and and sometimes like I just come up with ideas like the marshmallow alien was. I think I was eating marshmallow one day. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to make something kind of look like a marshmallow and it's an alien. And it's just something silly and stupid, but it's just kind of an original idea. But original ideas are hard to sell, I find too, right? They
Yeah.
really are, right? You have to kind of have a familiarity. Excuse me, I can't speak, but it has to be familiar for most people to want to collect a lot, right? So I gotta have.
Yeah, man, I agree. So, dude, man, so what do you think is probably your biggest challenge right now? Because I think it's probably going to apply to a lot of people when it comes to selling toys and doing it full time. Is it the creativity and constantly trying to come up with something new? Is it trying to make something like you just said, something that really hits with people,
Yeah.
or trying to make enough in a run? Or, I mean, the other thing is like, when do you do a drop? I think all that stuff matters too, man. What do you think is the biggest challenge for you?
For me, I think for me, it's personally, I think it's marketing.
Yeah,
Number one, I think I'm horrible marketer. But at the same time, I think I also, I, I'm, I'm getting into my own, like had a good conversation, where like I need to focus on what I really love doing mostly. And it's mostly like, I like horror movies. I
mm,
like comics. I like dinosaurs and robots. I'm going to focus more of my attention all on that kind of thing, right? So, and kind
yeah,
of get into more of the, I guess I don't even know what to say, but like it's just whatever comes to my mind, I just try to plot it down and then just go, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as your account gets older, um, I mean, if you looked at a lot of your stuff, man, you kind of, as far as like styles of stuff, you got like Frankenstein on one end, and then you got Boba Fett on the other end. As you're moving along further,
Yeah.
and kind of going back to what you just said, do you think it's important to try to kind of narrow in on kind of one alley, like you said, dinosaurs, monsters, then really try to nail that one?
Yeah.
Or is there still a sense of like, look, whatever comes to mind, I'm going to do it, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
I say that I want to like, kind of follow that path, but I think with me it's kind of always been like that. It's whatever comes to my mind, I'm going to
Yeah.
do it. Whether it sells or not, that's fine. Um
Mm,
I'm okay with like coming up with something that if somebody likes it and wants it, that's great. If they don't, it's not a big deal, right? Like it's not.
yeah.
I know this is not a livelihood for me. It's an outlet for me, right? So
Right.
I enjoy
Right.
creating the art and showcasing it. And if people like it, that's fine enough for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, and do you think just, like just mentally, just kind of what you just said, do you think, because I certainly think it does, man, do you think it kind of puts you at an advantage in the creative process where you're saying, it's not my livelihood. It doesn't matter if this sells or not. I'm going to make what I want to make. And if people like it, hey, that's cool too.
Yeah, I think because I'm not bound by that, I think that's where I might be a little lazy, to tell you the truth, right? Like, in order for promoting it more so. And again, there's certain limitations that I have, that I know, physical limitations, that I deal with, and I yeah, I don't know. I just need to kind of focus more attention on creating. I don't know what I'm trying to say. More like, I want to do more back like card art, along
Sure.
with my pieces and whatnot. So,
Sure.
put it together. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, especially with the background of, I mean, some of your paintings, man. I mean, freaking A, I didn't even think about that, dude. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I've just kind of strayed away from that, right? So, and again, it's just the way my kind of my brain works. If I focus on one thing, I just do that, and then I forget about,
Yeah.
whole package kind of thing, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now a lot of your stuff, I mean, I if you had to say in 1 year, I wanna be really good at fill in the blank, or you wanna add fill in the blank, what would those things be?
Let me see. Maybe doing like backers with like
Yeah,
with blister.
yeah,
Definitely, I want to get into doing that for sure. Like,
yeah,
that's a next step I kind of want to do. I want to make, some whatever size figure, but have like a backer card with a blister on it, or even a boxed figure. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think it kind of elevates certain pieces a lot of times, along with card.
Sure.
Right? So,
Yeah, man, I think that's exactly right, dude, and I think there's plenty of examples of people out there that are, um, maybe the figure is carrying the card, maybe the card's carrying the figure,
yeah, for
just
sure.
depending on, yeah, just depending on the artist. But I think I've seen, a lot of people out there that have just these killer backers, and and you can tell that the figure was kind of an afterthought. But it's not really about that, right? It's just
Yeah,
having an object there that relates to the backer, but the backer is really, really cool, man.
yeah,
Um, that's a great goal to have, I think, because I
yeah.
think your art is really, really dope, and I think that could definitely work.
Yeah, for sure. And that's I think that's my next logical progression for me, is to kind of go that route. Have a nice piece, obviously, with nice backer art
Yeah,
thing, right? So,
yeah,
yeah.
nice. Have you explored card backs at all?
I have not yet.
Yeah,
No, and I mean, I've seen the process, and then there's a lot of tips from some good makers out there, fellow makers,
yeah.
and I know what's involved. That's for sure. So there's a lot, and I was almost maybe thinking of even making my own vacuum forming um, box, whatever, in order to kind of vacuum form
Mm,
like over or figures or whatever, right?
yeah,
Static
yeah.
or otherwise, right? So yeah, I want to get into that.
Yeah, man. That's that vacuum forming. That looks like a whole art in his own.
Oh,
But it's the card backs just in general. Man, I think there's so many different things that you could do with those as far as the material and stuff. And I mean, you hear people complain about separating and the glue and the
all that
ink
kind
and
of stuff.
the
Yeah.
feel, and it's
Yeah.
man, there's a lot of stuff out there going on. What about so you do have another page where it's basically your collection page, correct?
Yes, for sure.
Now on that one, there was a lot of stuff on there, man. I honestly got stuck on those first two posts, or the latest ones for that Naomi Naff piece.
Yeah, that was a beautiful piece. That was.
Oh my god, so good, dude.
I mean,
So good.
along with your show, and just going online, I've won a lot of like fellow artists pieces, and they're all amazing.
Yeah.
I love.
Who do you like to collect when it comes to that?
It's funny. Like, I've never really fully collected, um,
Yeah.
like the independent toys, and I think now I want to say that either from your show, I ended up getting pieces, and then I started buying. I think it was the bootleg market, one of the first
Mm,
ones, where I got like TD Bean piece. Uh,
yeah.
it was the Mummy Stalker MK2, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then I got a Boreal Boba piece, and then I kind of got, I did a couple of trades with some people, Ordinary Toys, but General Porpoise, Lab Monkey #9, all those guys. Like, I mean, there's so many to mention that, like, I would love to buy everyone's pieces if I had the money. Let's put it.
Isn't it crazy, man, when someone asks you like, "Oh, what's your favorite?" You're like, how am I supposed to answer that?
It's hard for me to answer because there's just so many, and there's so many people I'm not naming. Like, there's just like, and everyone, like, probably in the chat, like, it's just it's amazing the talent that is out there. And if I had endless buckets of money, I would buy it all.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But I don't, right? So,
hey, what's
I'm happy to see it through Instagram and your collection.
Oh, thanks. It's yeah, man. It's just, like you said, there's so many good ones out there. It's hard to just even talk about just one in general. But I think what you said was interesting about collecting. From my experience, usually when you tell somebody, when you get the words toy and collecting in the same sentence, for a lot of people that don't understand what this is, that's an instant turnoff for them, man. Really? And so I try to stay away from collecting, but then when you say you have like X amount of number of Healy pieces, you're like, okay, you're obviously collecting those. You know what I mean? But
100%.
Then how do you explain to somebody, well, fill in the blank artist, they don't really make runs. So I'm not really collecting. I guess I'm collecting their one-offs, or in a better word, I just like their work,
For sure. And that's totally understandable. It's like me, collecting a lot of like you said, the famous toys from back in the day. It's just like all the old stuff I like as well, right? As with the new. And then, you see everyone's inspiration or pieces of all that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'd love to get that. And then a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'll get that. And I was like, but then I'm like, oh my God, shipping is going to be more than the actual figure. And that's kind of a deterrent sometimes for me. So that's why I have to kind of think wisely of like, okay, what am I going to save my money for in order to get what piece that I want, right? So.
Yeah, man, I wish there was some way. I mean, you have stores like E2K and DKE that are, kind of a hub, I would say, for some international artists. But I wish there was something that people get, and the prices just keep going up, man. Isn't it ridiculous, dude? Like, I mean, it's over $40 now to ship to Australia, and it's even for like a small box. That's craziness, dude. That's craziness.
I know, it's nuts. It's and like I said, oftentimes it's a deterrent, right? Because I'm like, even there's sometimes I'm like, oh, they're selling just a $5 piece, but then after, when it comes here, it's like, oh my God, I just spent $40 for a $5 piece.
Exactly, man. And does it ever get frustrating when you see that, when you put the other set of shoes on and say, man, there could be people that are not buying my pieces because it's coming from Canada, and they don't want to pay the shipping,
And that's the other thing that, to touch back on your question before, it's also like figuring out pricing. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, maybe I need to price it a lot, more affordable for people in order to get it in their hands, right? Because, you know what I mean? Like, it's because, sometimes, a lot of times I think deterrent is that.
Yeah. And like you said, man, then you got to start factoring all these different prices in. And then sometimes I see people really cutting the shipping down on international stuff. And it's like, man, I know that they're losing money on that. And that's just cutting into the bottom line. And that sucks, man, when you're not talking about a huge bottom line in the first place. When you have to start cutting away. All that being said, and there goes Porpoise. I think that General Porpoise moonlights as a sales rep for Pirate Ship. I really do.
I wish we had Pirate Ship here.
Do you not? So I mean,
we don't have it in Canada.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was like, I always hear, I'm like, oh, who is it? Vomit.
Vomiting Droids.
No, the other one.
Plastic Vomit.
Plastic Vomit.
There you go.
No matter how much you order, it's $5 shipping, right, in the States, right? And is that Pirate Ship? Is that correct? Like, I know there's some some of the makers are like, there's $5 no matter what. I was like, how can you do that? That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Oh, Porpoise says, unfortunately, US only. So
Yeah, it
it's
is.
totally
Yeah.
my bad, man. I've been talking about doing pirate ship for the longest time now, and I still haven't done it. And there's no good reason why I haven't done it. But
Right.
yeah. So, anyways, dude, enough about shipping, dude.
Yeah, it's
That's
whatever.
a downer right
It is
there.
what it is. That's just
Yeah.
part of the process, right? So I'm just
Exactly. Exactly. So going forward, man. So you got the 3 shows coming up, but beyond that, what's in store, man? Just kind of keeping the wheels churning, thinking of
yeah, just
something,
keeping the
pumping it
wheels
out.
turning. I have a couple ideas that I'm working on that I hope to come to fruition. Uh,
Nice.
I believe summer will be when I can get at it. So and again, like I said, things I have to plan out ahead of time just because of certain whatever things I have to deal
Yeah.
with as far as my physical limitations, and then I kind of move forward with that. But I'm always going to be creating. That's for sure. Like that's the breadth of life for me, is just to keep creating all the time, and and this community is a great inspiration to keep doing that always, for sure.
Yeah, it is, man. I think, it's for the homegrown artist, so to speak, right? And I sometimes I feel like I shouldn't even be speaking on this because I came in like around 2020, and I know for a fact that there's people that have been here way longer than me. And before this was a thing, before I even bought my first piece, this was a bit, this was a thing.
For sure.
But I don't know what the point of that was, man. I have no idea. um, let's talk about your giveaway real quick,
Yep.
because show me what that is. I
Yeah,
tried
yeah.
to
Let me
I tried
grab
to
that.
do a picture online from your picture, and I think it worked pretty good. But when you start looking at that thing, it's pretty sick.
Yeah. So there. Well, let's see if we can see that. So that's the great horned toad.
Oh, dude, way bigger than I thought.
Yeah, he's yeah, fairly good size, right? And then you throw the sorry, I'm bad with the camera there.
I love that, dude.
Yeah, so this was all drawn up on oops, there's the helmet. It was all drawn up on Nomad Sculpt, and then I printed it, and then I casted it in did the silicone mold for it for both these things, and then there's a bit of glow and whatnot on there. Yeah.
Nice. Is there now the 3D sculpting, man? Is that something that are you self-taught in that as well?
Yes, slowly
Wow.
but surely. I'm doing a few things. There's this guy here too.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he's like a weird walrus gorilla dude, and then he's got
Oh man, nice.
a little helmet on there too. So yeah, I enjoy doing the 3D sculpting. My 3D printer is not the best, but it's definitely a challenge. But I enjoy it as well, for sure. It kind of like is easier on the arms to draw rather than actually hand sculpt. So yeah, it kind of helps a bit here and there. But there's something about hand sculpting that I really enjoy,
Nice.
that connection. But both are amazing. Like it's there's so many good artists out there that just keep creating and creating. So I'm like, but every once in a while I'll keep drawing on there for sure.
Yeah, and that's something else that's really cool, man. I mean, you see those collabs all the time where somebody's doing well, shoot, we just saw a huge one making a mutant
Yeah.
in APOC, but there was like a dozen people in that one. But
Yeah, the Bastards, the multi-universe there, like, whew.
yeah, what a cool way to do a almost like a scraps type figure for a show, right?
Yeah,
Because everybody's just doing their own thing.
yeah, yeah, I love that.
Cool one. All right, so let's I got a ticker up here for the giveaway. We're gonna put that
Sure.
up here. Here we go. Great horned devil toad, 2 3/4 inches tall, 3 inches wide, with helmet on the horns, reach 3.25, hand cast in a subtle UV yellow with a UV glow orange drip, and comes with a removable blue and pink skull helmet, glows light blue and orange. And then there was tell me about that heart shape thing that came out on
Yeah,
it.
it's hard to say. See, it's just when you pour like two colors of resin, there was like a little bit of pink inside there, and then at the top, it's hard to see. Sorry, you can kind of see it there a little bit. There's like a little heart shape that just came. I don't know. It's just something that just appeared. Kind of interesting. Resin does funny things sometimes where you just mix the colors together.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Nice, man. All right. So I think we got up to, let me check the wheel just one more time.
Sure.
I just make sure we didn't have any more entries in there. I don't think we did, but we had a really good response to the question this week. I think we got up to, I want to say 42 or 43.
Oh, wow.
Hey, look at this, man. I got a like from Dookie McFart Sniffle. That is funny, man. I was just talking about him the other day and haven't seen him around, man. But he's got some really cool figures. If you guys don't know Dookie or Rutro Toys, RUTRO, check out that account. There's still a lot of stuff in the store that's available for purchase. There's some really good pieces in there, some really good values. So let's take a look at this real quick. Yeah, we got up to, wow, 104 comments on that one. That was very nice. Thank you, everybody. Bam, we got up to 42. I'm going to bump it up to 43 because there was one account that was hitting me up that could not post for some reason. I don't know. Did you have any trouble with that, dude? The other day, there was some big outage. Yes. And I don't know if that's what was affecting mine or what, but I was trying to post on Wednesday morning, and it would not post at all.
Yeah, it was Wednesday or Tuesday. That's right. Yeah, because then I saw that there was an outage for Facebook and Instagram but it was only for like, I think, half hour or something like that.
Something like that. I keep on seeing that people post about the great meta outage of 24, whatever it was.
The world to an end.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get the wheel up here real quick. Bam. There we go. We're gonna change this to 43. All right, this is for the Dre Horned Frog piece. Good luck to everybody. Winner on this one is going to be number 12. And let's see who number 12 is. Let's scroll back for that one. Let's see. All right, number 12. Look at that, Jazz Wizard. Son of a gun. Yep. Nice.
That's awesome.
Jazz Wizard. All right, Jazz. So you're gonna have to get a hold of Dre.
Yeah.
And you guys get that going on. But congrats to Jazz Wiz.
For sure. I believe I have his information.
Nice.
Unless it's changed, just hit me up there, Jazz. He's also gonna get a couple other little doodads with that as well. So
nice, very cool. So for you, man, we got Sewer Showdown is the next thing coming up for you, right?
Yes, sir.
Bam, you got to and then also there's you're gonna be throwing some stuff in the shop, is that correct?
Yeah, there's I've kind of casted a few little pieces here and there. I'm gonna be throwing that up on the shop. And I might do another of the POC 3 pieces as well. I did sell the one, which was great. Going to a good home, and and then for sure.
That was what was the scale on that one that you did for APOC 3?
That one was just over 6 inches, I believe.
Wow, dude! I thought, holy crap! Okay, I thought that was like more around like the 4.
No, this is here, I'll show you real quick.
Oh, wow, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah. But
Oh, dude, that is awesome.
thank you.
You know what, dude? Hold up real quick. Just keep I'm gonna try to highlight your screen. I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna try right now and try to do because that's freaking awesome. Solo layout. There we go. Go ahead and show that thing again.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, that is sick. Wow. So tell me about that real quick, man. How did you make that?
So this chest and arm is from Skeletor, I believe, an old
Okay.
Skeletor. Then I kind of sculpted the kind of the logo head on there with like a little chain. So then this head was here. Let me just take this all apart. So that head there was
Mm.
from I think Playmate's horse. If you can kind of see it, it's kind of like this way. Sorry, I'm not good on the backwards. So that, and then I decided to make a mask face out of it, and then I did kind of like bleeding eyes,
Yeah.
and then the horns coming out of the head. What other piece here? So then this here was like from a miniature Hulk figure. Uh,
Mm.
this part of the arm. Um, this here I kind of sculpted like a dragon face on top of I think it was from one of those Kane Motu figures.
Nice.
Yeah, and I kind of just cut it up, and then I made the flame attachment, attached the hose with a that's removable too, a little gas can
Oh, nice.
with a little monkey on the back too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, a little drill, and I don't know where this drill came from, and this little piece, but I had a box of pieces of stuff, and I
Yeah.
started putting them together. The legs I kind of sculpted from the Frankenstein legs, and just added some studs and stuff on the feet there.
Wow.
So, yeah, I had a lot
Wow,
of fun
man.
doing this one, and then kind of I did like a transition resin pour on the arm and on the back there, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
Yeah,
nice.
kind of like did it twice, kind of thing. So I poured the UV glow stuff in first, and then I threw in the other stuff. It was a lot of fun to do. I'll tell you.
Dude, you know what, man? Isn't it funny how just using like using Skeletor and then just changing the color of it makes it look completely different.
Oh yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun seeing it like get chopped up and come to something that you've planned out and wanted.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
He's kind of just an amalgamation of all those movies from the 80s, the cheesy ones, the good ones, the Mad Maxes, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. And over 6 inches tall. Now, did you say you were
Yeah,
gonna be making more of those?
I think I'm gonna make another one or two of those. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so finish.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Well,
Anything else before we get you out of here?
no, man, I really appreciate what you do for the community, the show, and for having me on. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, as you could probably
Oh,
tell
dude.
about the show.
You did a great job, man. You did a
Thank
great job, dude. That was super interesting, dude. I encourage everybody to go back and take a look at some of those earlier posts
you.
for the card art. What about collabs, man? If somebody hit you up for some artwork on a card, would you be up for that?
Yeah, I probably would actually. And actually, I'm also doing it's kind of like a collab, but I'm doing like a double pour thingy for Viral Vile, Derek,
Yeah,
or
right.
uh, what's his name? I don't know if he wants me to show it or not, so I'm not
Oh
gonna.
no, all good. Yeah, that's Dylan, right?
Yeah, Dylan. Sorry,
Yeah,
it's Darren.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it's a dope little figure. It's a little grim figure. I think it's on his like profile pic. So I just did like a double pour of that,
Nice. Very
and
cool.
it came out really nice. It's a little UV and black kind of thing. So those
Sweet.
that should be coming out within the next couple weeks as well too.
Okay, right on. So take a look. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for the Big Cartel shop drop coming up here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I will definitely be seeing your piece in Sewer Showdown coming up
Yep.
in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, man, already. Holy.
Trey, thank you, man. That was awesome, dude. Thank you for your time.
Having me.
Very much appreciate you, dude, as an artist and as a friend, man. So thanks for coming on and giving
I
me some of your
appreciate
time.
you too, man. Thank you very much.
You got it, buddy. Have a good one, man.
Have a good night. Take care.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bam. Dre in the house. I'm going to grab one piece real quick. It's a Kiers piece because he's coming on next. All right, we're going to be talking about these pieces in general, so it's probably good to have one right here with me. Great account right there for Dresease, Dr. Ease. But really, I mean, I think we're talking about, if I remember right, I want to say 300-ish posts in there. And, you can really see the progression quickly from making what we just saw. I mean, basically making nothing, except watercolors and then some acrylics and then just, gradually moving up, but it goes really fast, right? Like I said, there was one picture of a painted figure and then next thing you know, we're making figures. And then here we are a couple years later. And it's a fully articulated 6-inch figure. That was a super sick piece. Anyways, check out Dre. Make sure you check out Sewer Showdown coming up in a couple weeks. He's going to be in that one. Got a shop drop coming up pretty soon. Next on our list, let me get the correct banner out. Bam. Kiers Customs coming up, man. If you guys don't know about Kiers Customs, Kiers, Kiers Customs, I first met Justin at Assembly Required 2 years ago, I believe. He was sharing a table with Carolina Cool Cat. And great table, lots of unique characters. Everything is original from the ground up. He's got some great stories for us. Justin, you ready? Awesome, man. Here we go. Kiers Customs.
Here I am. And I have to tell you, Brian, I am in sort of an unusual position here because I'm used to being in your seats. Usually I'm the one interviewing people because I used to be a broadcast journalist and a broadcast meteorologist. So I almost don't know how to feel being on the receiving end of questions, but I'm very excited to be here and very thankful to be here. So thank you for having me.
Dude, thanks for coming in, man. I was over at my buddy Hurt Toy's house the other day and we're kind of going over the show and I'm telling him who's going to be on the show. And I show him your video that you did the other day. And without telling him what you do, he goes, that's your hometown newscaster. That's your hometown newscaster right there. And I said, dude, you'll never believe this, but
and awesome. If my wife was sitting here next to me, by the way, she would be poking me because I sort of shift in and out of the broadcast voice.
Yeah.
And it's sort of become part of me, I've done it for so long and things like that, but she'll tease me. She'll be like, why are you talking to me in your TV voice? Talk to me in your normal Justin voice. So yeah, feel free to hit me over the head with something or whatever. And I have to say, Dre started off with those masks. This face is a lot scarier than any of the masks that he showed on the show just a minute ago. So Dre, I'll tell you, I need one of those masks. I think the people watching at home would probably prefer me to wear a gremlin mask or something like that.
We were on such a streak with those masks for a while, man. It was just one after another. And I have a couple lined up for some of these shows coming up, man. And I don't know. I think they're funny. So going back to your newscasting, if anybody's seen any of your lives, especially from Assembly Required, I mean, what's kind of cool about it, I think, is honestly that it does have that kind of feel to it that you're reporting from there. Now, is the newscasting something that you're still doing now?
No, it's been a while since I've done that. Quite frankly, I became a dad 3.5 years ago with my beautiful daughter, and became a dad again, our second daughter, this past June. Television news is not a good work environment if you want to have a family. I'll just put it that way. I worked weird hours, which was fine when it was just me and my wife. But we sort of talked about it, and it was just a good transition point. I've gone back and forth between government and news, and now I have like a normal person job as a consultant outside of government and outside of news. So life is a little bit calmer, but every once in a while the TV station still calls if somebody gets sick, and they're like, "Hey, can you come in and fill in for the weekend or do something like that?" Which I'm happy to
Oh, nice. That's cool,
do.
man. Um, so gosh, I think we were talking before the show, and there's about 1,500 posts in there. And it goes back to now. Was I right? Does it go back to 2015?
That sounds right. I trust the Instagram historical record better than my own memory, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been such a long trajectory, and it started off with me just customizing toys, and now it's gone, the full life cycle of me actually doing plastic injection molded figures from scratch. So it's been quite a journey since 2015.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed right away at Assembly Required a couple years ago, once I looked up your account, man, was the 3D
Mhm.
print sculpting that you're doing.
Mhm.
Is that all self-taught? Is that in your background anywhere?
It is. I have no art background whatsoever. I mean, I took art in high school, a couple of art classes and things like that. Always had sort of a natural talent for drawing. My dad is an architect, and he really was just gifted with this natural ability to do beautiful drawings and things like that. My mom actually is a talented painter. I'm a terrible painter. If you've ever seen my toys, you know that I have no painting skills whatsoever. It looks like my 3-year-old did some of the painting on some of the toys. I'm just kidding. But no, I have no formal art training. That was all self-taught. The digital sculpting, hand sculpting before that, resin casting. I have reached out to different individuals in the community, as well as people that do things professionally, and have been fortunate enough to have a lot of people do knowledge sharing and just information sharing with me. And you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the hours, and eventually you have something that somebody out there may want to buy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So let's talk about when you first started getting into actually producing your own toys.
Hmm.
Now, the injection molding is something we're going to see in a little bit. Is that something that you
Right.
started off with, or what was kind of your when you're saying, okay, I think I want to make a figure or something?
Hmm.
What was your go-to process at that time, and when was that?
Well, I guess it would have started when I was a kid. Like a lot of people out there, I started customizing GI Joes. I had the testers paint, and I would sloppily paint, sci-fi the color red instead of green, or I'd have my WWF or WCW wrestling figures, and I'd paint a mask on them or something like that. But what ended up happening was, I had some high stress jobs. I worked in emergency management. I mentioned broadcast news a minute ago, and I needed some sort of outlets. My outlet was working out and things like that, but I need something else. I've always had this desire to sort of create things and, as well as collect things. And I started seeing resin artwork, these beautiful resin toy pieces that people had either kit bashed or they had sculpted, onto something, or they had created from scratch. And that sort of inspired me to learn more about the process, reach out to different people, and learn more about the process. So that's really where it began. Was back in 2015, I was sort of customizing things or
Hmm.
making dioramas, but then that transitioned into hand sculpting and then resin casting, which eventually transitioned into, I would like to have an end product that is comparable to something that's made in the factory that you could buy in a store. And that's where the digital sculpting journey took me as well. I thought, well, maybe by some stroke of luck, maybe somebody would want to hire me. So let's learn the skill set. And actually, the thing that was really the sort of the catalyst for the digital sculpting was I had one of my followers on Instagram reached out to me who happened to work for a tabletop gaming company of all things,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
he liked the work that I had done. And I said, I have to be honest with you, everything that I've done is hand sculpted. I don't do digital sculpting, and I know that's sort of just the industry standard that a lot of people have, unless you're a name that's been in the business for a long time that does a lot of hand sculpting. But it's just we can talk about this later at some point when we talk about some of the things that I would suggest to people. But digital sculpting, those of you that are artists that are watching this, you can really take the the quality level to a whole nother level. Your workflow improves so dramatically whenever you can do things digitally. Now, of course, I too was hesitant to sort of jump into digital sculpting because I really enjoyed the relaxing flow of working with my hands and things like that. But what I found was it was a lot easier to design things. It was a lot easier to correct things, to resize things, to engineer them. And the planning phase was so much more streamlined. And I didn't have a lot of compensate for that a little bit with some of the digital shortcuts that you can take that you get a really nice end product with.
Got it. Sorry, 1 second here, man.
No worries. And for those of you that are, interested in, learning more about it, who are the two guys from Ireland that do a great class that you can buy or watch on YouTube? The Flip Normals guys. That's who I learned from in terms of the digital sculpting classes.
Gotcha. I wanted to back up to one thing that you said, because I did see a little bit of a progression there in your early Instagram post where you said that you were doing some dioramas. And it looked like you were making all kinds of stuff, man, walls, stuff like that. Were you sculpting that stuff just originally and then casting it, or were you just painting your sculpts?
So a lot of that was actually made out of, you know how when you go to the hardware store, they have the insulation that you sort of put in the wall, right? They've got those thick sheets of either white or pink or blue insulation. And that's a very common thing that you see a lot of the really nice dioramas that are part of the action figure community. People will sculpt with some of the hot tools. They'll have those sort of wax burners that they can burn lines in. And I actually learned that from my dad, believe it or not. My dad creates this huge Christmas village each year, and he makes it out of styrofoam blocks. And he showed me a lot of different techniques that he uses to include, taking actual materials and sort of making an impression of them into the styrofoam or into the insulation. And you can get some really nice results, particularly if you know how to sort of paint them and what paints to use and things like that. So it really actually started with my dad, and then, watching a lot of the tabletop gaming people that do their own sort of little mini dioramas for things like Warhammer and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that's tabletop gaming, man. Wow. I've seen you had some pieces at Assembly Required that were incredibly small, man. Let's talk about that line. There is a name of that line, correct?
There is, and a lot of those characters are sort of bleeding into the Kiers War line, but the primary name was the Schlock Troopers. Everybody's heard of the old German soldiers, the shock troopers, but a lot of my influences come from 1980s, 1970s, and 1990s schlock movies, B movies, Italian horror, trauma, all the good stuff from the 80s, 70s, and 90s. And I, combine the shock troopers with the schlock movies and sort of combine them together. And the idea behind the line was to have some miniatures, something that somebody could come up to the table, spend $5-10 on, and walk out with, whether it was a kid or a collector that just had some pocket money after they'd invested in a beautiful art piece from somebody else at the show. You might as well walk away with a couple of pieces instead of just one piece, something with pocket money. And the idea there was to have, who are the guys that always sort of have to go in and either clean up the zombie apocalypse or, take out the heroes in the movies or something like that. It's the schlock troopers, the guys in the gas masks, and you never know if they're the good guys, the bad guys, if they're human or they're not human.
Yeah, nice. Now, man, so there is so much, even a whole line of stuff. When you were growing up, what was kind of like your go-to thing? Were you collecting stuff at all, or?
I was. So my dad worked for a company called Hills Department Stores when I was growing up, and anybody that grew up in the Rust Belt, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, West Virginia, parts of Virginia, Maryland, parts of Ohio, even up into Michigan and Wisconsin. Hills was at one point was the number 3 store behind I think Kmart and Target and maybe Walmart. Hills was somewhere at some point it was number 3, and then it went back to number 4, and then they eventually got bought out by Ames. So the reason I bring that up is because my dad, being part of that, Hills was known as the Hills is where the toys are store. So Hills was a destination place for a kid like me in Pittsburgh to go into this huge toy section and just, you leave with something, whether it was a big thing or a small thing. Usually it was a small thing. But when I was a kid, I collected a lot of the same things that many people that grew up in the 80s collected. G.I. Joe, of course, Starcom, Air Raiders, robotics. And then, you sort of transitioned into the 90s. I was a little bit older, starting lineup, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a lot of the usual stuff that a lot of the big name items. And now I sort of find myself collecting some of those, off the beaten track toy lines and stuff like that.
Yeah. What about so You said starting lineups, man. That's one I have
Yeah.
I have so many of those, man. Is that something that you ever go back to? Now, if anybody's ever collected starting lineups, you know that the ones that are worth money, right, are the ones that are just the odd. There's some really odd players, some really short print ones, and those ones can get kind of pricey. Do you ever find yourself going to at least look on eBay and say, "Hey, man, how much is fill in the blank worth these days?"
You know, it's funny. I actually have a box of them out in the shed that I still have that I just
That's
don't
where
have
they
the heart to
belong.
part with.
That's
I grew up a
arguably
San Francisco 49ers fan. I have like, 9 million different Jerry Rices and Steve Youngs and Joe Montanas and stuff like that. And Roger Craig, a lot of them.
yeah.
And when I was growing up, my dad was an architect for Hills. So he could go into the store before the store opened. And you probably were in the same boats. And I feel like I keep cutting you off, and I don't mean to because there's sort of that
No.
like half-second delay. So I feel like I'm cutting you off, and I do. I promise it's not intentional.
Not at all.
But I can remember standing in line on one Sunday morning with my mom in the front of the Hill store with this line of like adult male collectors that were there to buy, Patrick Waugh or Cordell Stewart or Kerry Collins or whatever the rare one was at the moment that everybody wanted.
Wow.
And my dad is standing next to the display where they all are, along with a couple of other Hills employees. And I could see him sort of covertly like looking through them and like sort of picking one out and like taking it to another part of the store and hiding it. Which, so Dad, I love you for doing that for me. Thank you so much for doing that if you ever watch this. But I could see some of the people in line, they were like looking like, what are these employees doing? They're doing the thing that people are accused of doing now for Target, where they take the, whatever the G.I. Joe classified figure is and they hide it in the kids' book section so that they can, pick it up later that afternoon or something like that. But yeah, that happened. My dad used to hide starting lineups in the makeup section of the store. So my mom and I could go to the makeup section. She could buy makeup. I could get the starting lineup, and
There you go.
the 40-year-old guy wasn't going to push me over in the toy aisle to get it.
Dude, you said Cordell Stewart and Kerry Collins in the same sentence. There's about 0.5% of people in this room that actually know who those guys are. That was a deep cut right there, man. Cordell Stewart / dude. Remember how good that guy was? He was
well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so he was the man there for like a season or two. Yeah,
exactly, a season or two. That's it. That's awesome, man. So that's very cool that you had kind of like this natural progression, or actually, I would almost say you almost born into it, right? Into toys and figures. And at what point are you moving along and saying, well, obviously it went from doing that, and then you had this, a whole other career. Were toys always kind of there, or was that something that you just kind of totally wiped off the table while you're doing the news and career thing, and then you're going back to the toys, or are toys kind of always in the background there for you?
They were always in the background. I think the only time that I maybe, didn't buy toys was probably early high school, probably because I was too embarrassed to go down a toy out, when you're early in high school and awkward and stuff like that. Yeah. But then when I got a girlfriend later in high school, I took her down the toy out and we buy toys together, kind of thing. So toys were always a part of my life. And in fact, I've got some toys just kind of hastily thrown up behind me. I'm always teasing my wife, Hannah, because I'm always like, can I display my toys in the house? And she's like, sorry, we're not displaying toys. Because when we first started dating, I had this big, the standard IKEA showcase that everybody has. And I had like my Highlander figures and my wrestlers and stuff like that. And that didn't make it out of the apartment phase. Once we moved into a house together and stuff like that, that was all relegated to the shed. So
that's funny, man. The IKEA Detolf, man. That's what that one is. I'm looking at 6 of them in front of me right now, dude, and they're just. What is up with the Detolf? The problem with the Detolf is that the spaces are too tall. They almost need like a built-in riser or another shelf. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but
and they keep raising the price. All the toy collectors have driven up the price. Anytime I go to an IKEA, they never have them in stock, and they're always like twice the price that they used to be like 10 years ago.
Dude, at least I know it's not just mine. The closest one to me is in West Sacramento, which is probably about 30 minutes from me. And you're right, they're never in stock anymore, man. They're just never there. So getting into the toy making, now let's talk about when you get into actually producing toys now, where you're actually making stuff. There was obviously stuff there before the 3D printing and the injection molding. At what point were you a collector and say, okay, I want to give this a shot now?
I think it's whenever, I was on Instagram, I was putting up, pictures of my dioramas and stuff like that. And I saw work from people like Killer Bootlegs or just so many different people. Too many people to even name off the top of my head, to include somebody like Daniel, who lives here in Columbia, South Carolina, that is Retro Toy Gimmick, who does the great
Right.
cardback toys and things like that. When I saw that, I said, if I learn how to do that, I think I can do that. And even from when I was a kid, I would buy a GI Joe, but it wasn't the GI Joe character. I would just make up a new name for him and come up with a storyline, and he'd be a new character, be my character. So I've always had this sort of desire to create, new characters, new universes, and things like that. As I think most kids probably, did and probably still do, right? So that would have been probably 2016 that I decided to actually make toys. And then the injection molding process began very painfully in 2020 when I bought a very expensive injection molding machine after seeing a Craftsman video. And then I realized that there was a little bit more to it than maybe what was shown in one of the first couple of videos by the Craftsman. I love the Craftsman, no criticism for him, but I sort of realized quickly that making hand sculpted toys and having the injection molding machine was not necessarily the way to go, which is another reason why I went the digital sculpting route. So I could make the molds myself and then actually have the molds to use in the injection molding machine, because you need a hard mold. You can't have like a silicone mold in there, or you're going to have these horrible parting lines, and when you inject the plastic into it, it's going to expand and look deformed and stuff like that. It just won't work.
Yeah, gotcha. Now the injection molding process, man. I'm going to show this piece real quick. This is one that I picked up from you at Assembly Required, and you were saying not too good on the paint, man. But if you're doing marbling like that, I mean, no paint required. That is a freaking beauty right there, and that's exactly why I chose it.
The Barbie Dream House Cotton Candy Swirl.
Barbie Dream House Cotton Candy Swirl, man.
At least that's what I call it in my head.
Yeah, no, it's a beauty, man. It's articulated. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Now, would you call this Glios?
No, and the reason that I did not do Glios, it was out of respect for the people that own copyrights and trademarks for Glios. So these are a peg that I actually designed digitally that are a little bit different. They're actually based off of a dinosaur toy that my daughter has.
Oh, nice.
They have sort of a rounding to the top, and there is a different construction inside the actual cavity, and they come in the pegs are different sizes depending on the body parts as well. So I didn't want to infringe upon any copyrights or patents from the Glios community, so I sort of made my own peg, and the peg was also born out of a necessity, which I'll show you down in the shed as well.
Nice. Yeah, we're actually going to go through this process on what makes these, but it's a nice tight fit, man. I like that. Really smooth articulation, and like I said, just a really nice tight fit. So, man, so tell everybody, was there a reasoning that tell everybody what these are made out of?
Okay, so those are made out of perler beads, but perler beads are simply low-density polyethylene plastic. And the reason that I chose perler beads was because polyethylene melts very easily, and it flows into the various crevices in a mold very easily compared to, say, like an ABS plastic or even a polypropylene. If you sort of study your different types of plastics, you know what I'm talking about. But that one just molds a lot easier. And the reason I chose perler beads is because they come in a variety of colors. And I actually had some because my daughter was using them for it was sort of like a little play project one day, and I sort of looked at them and I thought, I can get some great colors here, that I can't get from just buying 50 pounds of polyethylene from some factory somewhere that's white or black or red or something like that. And those characters, Brian, are one, they're influenced by a true life paranormal story, which I promised I would tell on the show, and two, they're live in the shop. I've got to upload more in the shop, but there's 6 different characters in the line. But would you like me to tell the paranormal story, the influence for it?
Yeah, let me just push
Okay.
the top real quick, man. If you guys are interested in one of these, there's a lot of these
Hmm.
available. Now there's a diver and an explorer available
Hmm.
in the shop right now. We always talk about really nice bargain price pieces. This is
Hmm.
one of these are about $30, and they're great. Like he said, they're perler beads. They
Hmm.
do have a different feel to them. Nice, smooth articulation. They balance really well. The marbling on that, like I said, you don't need paint when you're marbling is like this. This is super, super sick. Um, and he said that there is a paranormal story behind this. So
There
yes,
is.
lay it on me, man. What is it?
Okay, so we've got 6 different characters in line, right? And one of them is just looks like a regular human being. And the human being, if you look at some of the marbling here, this is probably the best example of this. And it might be a little bit blurry, but anybody that's out there, have you ever looked at a bright light and then you look away from the bright light and you see sort of the impression of the light, right? You see the purples and the oranges and the reds, and you see sort of that image. If you stare at a lamp, you'll see the outline of the lamp, right? And it looks purple, and you kind of see that, and then eventually it just kind of drifts off out of your eyesight, right? So keep that in mind as we begin this story. So I'm going to take you back. The year is 1986. I'm 3 years old. It's 3 o'clock in the morning when all paranormal stories seem to happen, right? 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm a little boy, get out of bed, or I sort of sit up in bed. I have to use the restroom, put my feet on the floor, turn to the doorway, and what do I see in the doorway but a man standing there? But it's not a man as if, as a normal looking man. It's a man that looks like if you were to stare at a light source and see this sort of luminescence, right? The swirling of the colors, the purples, the oranges, the reds. And I've had 2 paranormal experiences in my life. One is a neutral positive. This is the neutral positive one. Another one is a negative one that I'll tell you if you ever have me back on the show, because I'm going to do an art piece about that later on whenever I sort of drum up the courage to do it. But I'm 3 years old, and there's this man standing in my door that appears to be, this is sort of luminescent man, right? And I start talking to this luminescent man that's standing in the doorway. And the only thing that I remember about the way it looked, I don't remember anything about what it was wearing, but I remember the face. And the face looked a little bit like my dad, a little bit faintly. So I sort of quizzically said, "Dad, is that you?" And 3-year-old kid, it's dark, it's the middle of the night. My bedroom is straight down the hallway. My parents are at the other end of the hallway. And I'm just talking. It's not saying anything. It's not moving. It's just looking at me. It's just observing me. I'm not afraid. I'm just sort of confused as to why this man's, standing there. What seems like a few minutes go by, and I'm still saying, "Dad, is that you? Is everything okay? What's wrong?" As a 3-year-old would do. And eventually it sort of dissipates. And as it dissipates, here comes my dad down the hallway. "Is everything okay? I heard you calling me." And that's when I was afraid, because then I was like, that was not my dad. What was that? I'm
Mm,
3 years old.
mm.
So the reason that influences the toy line is that the marbling of the figures, especially a lot of the human heads, resembled what that looked like. And I don't even know, was it a ghost? Was it, you know, it, was it some pragmatic thing, right? Did I imagine it as a kid? Was it just some sort of relic of waking up in the middle of the night kind of thing? I'm open to that, but it was just a very strange experience. And when you hear all these stories about people waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and there are these entities in their room, or people are being abducted, or all these other bizarre stories that you hear, it's just kind of fascinating. And interdimensional stuff is really hot with all the David Grush discussions in front of Congress and all the alien talk. People are saying, are they aliens? Are they future humans? Are they interdimensional? And all that stuff can be incorporated stylistically, from a storytelling standpoint into the stuff that we do, because there are other people that are using interdimensional and aliens and all these cool, influences and things like that.
Yeah.
So if you buy an interdimensional explorer action figure, you are buying something that was influenced by a real life paranormal story that happened to me. And the most closely resembled characters to that are either the human or the cybernetic assassin, who is the human head, but he's got like a little robo eyeball on his
Yeah.
on his eye. That's actually my favorite sculpt of all of them. There's a Dead Astronauts. I love Dead Astronauts. In fact, I think you have one of my first pieces made out of resin that's a Dead Astronaut that you got at the 2023 Assembly Required. There's the Diver figure, which reminds me a little bit of Grant's Anchor Fist figure. At some point, I might have to do some sort of crossover with Grant as it relates to Anchor Fist with that character. We've got, this is actually influenced by a mask sculpt. Many of you may be on the Matt Tracker Jungle Mission sculpt as part of the mask series. So the Robo Head, I can't remember, it may have been One Trick Pony. Somebody called him TV Head at Assembly Required, and I really like that. I might have to use that. And then lastly, there's the one that you have that I call the Bubble Head. And each one of them has like a slightly different story and stuff like that. But I designed them to be sort of generally in scale with Dino Riders, Mask, Sky Commanders. But I got a lot of feedback that I either need to make them a little bit smaller to scale with Starcom or Air Raiders, or make them a little bit bigger. I know you had the request to make them like 3.75 inches. And I can do that. I just need to chop them up because the output from my injection molding machine is about this much per part, which is about 1.1 cubic inches.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes total sense now, man. I have never. I don't want to say I haven't seen somebody do injection molding, because I have, but that process, I'm clueless, and I'm excited to see it, man. So I know you said that your shop part is not where you're at right now. Did you want to try to go out there and try to do this right now?
I can. Can I tell one funny story about my Beagle?
Oh, yes, please do. I was going to say this.
I have to share this.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know. Do you have the ability to pull up the pictures that I sent you? Because I think the pictures are better than any words that I can share. But
I do.
So the year is 2017, and I'm here in the hot summer of Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm out at our other home that we used to have, where we also had a shed. I've got my pressure pot in the shed. My two wonderful dogs, Phoebe and Bandit, are outside, and I'm mixing resin. And my Beagle is outside, and my other dog, Bandit, who's sort of like a black lab mix, was outside. And I'm mixing the resin, have the pressure pot ready, sit the cup of resin down on the ground for no more than like maybe 5 to 10 seconds, right? And I think the dogs are sort of, out playing somewhere else in the backyard. Pick the cup up, pour the resin in the mold, put it in the machine, crank up the, air compressor, and, we're off to the races. Close up the shed, put my timer on, and call the dogs inside, and pull out 2 treats, hand one to Bandit, the black lab. He takes the treat and runs off. And then I go to hand Phoebe, the Beagle, the treat. And she starts hitting it with her nose, but she's not taking it with her mouth. And I thought, that's weird, And all of a sudden, all this drool starts coming out of the one side of her mouth, just like pouring out of her mouth. And I'm thinking, oh, that's not good. And I lift up her teeth, and her mouth is resin shut. There it is.
Wow.
With smooth cast 61D.
Holy smokes.
And I go into panic mode. I call my wife, who's down in Charleston at the time, and I say, Hannah, we have an emergency. Phoebe has resin in her mouth shut. I thought that was the end of my toy making career. I thought that was it. I thought that I was never going to be allowed to ever make a toy again. I thought that I was going to be banished from doing that. But the good news is, if anybody has ever owned a Beagle, they know how naughty they are. And that's the after picture. Okay. So everything, she was fine. It was a funny story. But I took her to the emergency vet. They're perplexed. I had the Smooth on, a stat sheet that they give you in the box, and they're looking at it, and they reviewed it. The good news was that actually a lot of the resin that Smooth on produces is actually very similar to resin that's used in dental work. So they actually had a dental solution, and they dremeled off the resin. And, hundreds of dollars later, after a huge vet bill, she was fine. They gave her a little bit of something for her like throat in the event that she got any sort of like burns from swallowing it or something like that, but they think that she only actually resin her mouth shut. So we went back to the same emergency vet after our other dog had an unfortunate back injury chasing a squirrel off the deck, and the lady's like, you guys look familiar. And I said, we're the ones whose dog resin their mouth shut. She's like, oh my God, we still tell that story at all of our vet parties and stuff like that. And they still show that at the vet's office where that happens. So So don't leave your resin near children or pets. That's my word of advice to everybody out there.
Wow. I've
Yeah.
never seen that one before.
I love the pictures. I love how they got the smile. She's just smiling, like nothing's wrong after, resin in her mouth shut. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that dog is still with you?
no, unfortunately she passed on. She lived to be 13 years old. She
Oh, wow.
survived a lot of, hijinks and stuff like that. But we have another beagle that's joined the family. But
Nice.
that wasn't her only adventure, and I'll just leave it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, we're gonna take a look at this
Yeah.
injection molding now. If you guys didn't hear before, the materials that he's using is those perler beads.
Hmm.
And if you're not familiar with those perler beads, those are you have the little kind of template with the spikes coming up, and then the little beads with holes. Exactly, man. Yeah, yeah. My daughter
And
uses
little
it
kid,
too.
and they're actually designed to melt, which is great. Little kids will take an iron and iron them on
Yeah,
like a pattern. But I actually had some of these too, not only because my daughter was using them, but also because I was using them when I was hand sculpting things to get perfect cylinders for sculpts. So that's why I also had some, and I just decided, let's try it.
yeah, yeah. And this is all work that you're doing at home in your shop.
It is. So yeah, the sort of the high level overview of the process is it begins with planning, right? So I draw out what I want to do. I have a character idea. I draw out some of the backstory, and then I talk. I actually do really poor hand drawings of where I want the articulation, what the character is going to look like, and then I take the drawing and I digitally sculpt it, design the articulation in ZBrush, which is the digital sculpting platform that I use, and then I'll take the model that I sculpt and then reverse it using booleans and a couple of other techniques where I'll, if it's a figure, I take sort of a digital square and I'll imprint the figure. The model is the boolean and it cuts out the shape in the block. So I, add things like draft angles and vents and different stuff that you have to do for actual, injection molding molds, which are a little bit different, obviously, than, silicone mold because you can't have like undercuts and other little things that are part of it. And then what I do is I'll put that into a slicing software. Those of you that do 3D printing know what that is. But basically, anytime you do a 3D print, it's just a bunch of different slices. Think of it as like a sandwich, right? You've got the bun at the bottom, the lettuce, the meat, the mustard, the ketchup, the onion, the tomato, and then the bun again. Each slice is just a little thin piece of that. And the 3D printer will print that up on the build plate. I use resin 3D printing as opposed to the plastic pen, because if you use resin 3D printing, you can get some of the details without that striation that you see in a lot of the plastic pieces that people have to sort of acetone off, right? And then once I have the molds printed, I cure the molds, clean them up, and then that's when I take the 3D printed mold and put them into the injection molding machine. And I think that's probably a good point for us to sort of pause. I'll go down there. Hopefully the internet reception is good enough for me to be able to broadcast from there. If it's not, I'll hightail it back up here with the mold and kind of talk through the process.
Sounds good. We'll see you back here in a minute.
Okay, thank you, man.
You got it. All right, so Justin's going to go get that ready. Again, this is injection molding that he's doing at home, which I know a lot of people. I don't want to say a lot of people that I know are trying to do that, but it is something that comes up when it comes to injection molding. I think, just from talking to people around the scene, I think, I think that could definitely be an option. But I think there's kind of I don't know, kind of a misnomer, I guess you would say, that that it can't be done. While we're waiting for Justin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on a video here real quick. I kind of just want to use you guys as guinea pigs and see if this actually works. I've been trying to add videos to this, so I added the video from the Apocalyptico show. So the Apocalyptico 3 rundown. It's about a minute and a half long. I'm going to turn it on here in a second. The only thing that it won't do is it won't play commercial music, or it actually will, but it'll get flagged and taken down from YouTube really quick. So the music that I'm going to use for it is some built-in music that they have. It's like royalty-free music that's on StreamYard app. So anyways, I'm gonna dump that in real quick, and then we're gonna watch this video. I'll see if Justin if that'll come through. It looks a little bit, looks like, yeah, we can do it. Okay, cool. So he's ready. We're going to play this video just real quick. All right, so that was that. It looks like it worked. Okay, right on. Yeah, maybe we'll show it again here at the end of the show. But that was, like I said, man, I was just trying to kind of test something out to make sure that it worked. It looks like it works. So that's good. The music is a little bit clunky, but I didn't realize that you kind of got to turn your screen off, so I don't have myself as the background on there. So smoothing it out. But it just kind of opens the door to some other stuff that we can do here in the next few weeks. That's going to be pretty cool. So let's get to the correct banner now. Now we're going to jump back over to Justin. Justin, you ready? Perfect. So Justin's going to give us a little a demo of the injection molding process.
Yeah.
And you are out at your shop. I'm going to do a full screen on you, my man.
I am absolutely, and I was enjoying the music as I was tripping and falling in the dark in my backyard here in Columbia, South Carolina. So this is my shed, everybody, and you guys will appreciate this. I do have a toy shelf up there where I've got all my vintage toys, and then I've got another toy shelf up there of stuff that I've made. So I like to use that just as kind of inspiration. And the thing that I tell people that are getting into this, if you have an interest in getting into this, please do your research, because this injection molding machine that I've got here, this is the same one that Craftsman talked about in some of his first videos, but it's not cheap. And after that took off, I think this machine at least increased by probably 50%, if not more. They also have a more expensive machine. The difference is going to be how much plastic output you get from the machine. So basically, where we left off was I have a 3D printed mold. So here's my 3D printer. It's a mess. I spilled some resin recently. I haven't had a chance to clean it up, but it's just an Elegoo Mars 3. So once I print the molds, I cure them, get them fixed up. And this is an example of a mold that I've got here. So I do 2-part molds, very similar to many of the 2-part molds that you've seen, from a lot of the vintage 80s toys. But essentially, as you can see here, this is actually a mold for the legs for the Interdimensional Explorer. And it's 2 halves. One of the halves actually has basically, for those of you that do resin casting, you pour the resin into the hole. This is going to be the point in which the plastic, which comes out of here, is injected into the actual mold itself. So what you do is you turn on the injection molding machine. It will heat up the plastic. You have to know what heat threshold to have for your specific plastic. For those of you that are watching this, in the future at some point, for polyethylene, I like to keep it somewhere between about 300 degrees and about 325 degrees. And then I will modify the temperature depending upon the plastic output, because sometimes it heats up a little bit and it can really accumulate heat, and sometimes the little temperature indicator here is not always fully accurate, right? Because the temperature in the barrel might vary slightly from the setting that you have on the machine. So once the plastic has an opportunity to, I just turned it on, so we do need to give it a second here. Each one of these injection molding machines usually comes with its own vise. You can sort of swap it out. But the reason that the vise is there is that you want to have a really tight grip between the two-part molds or the multi-part mold. The reason is the tighter the grip, the less flashing that you're going to get. Now, those of you that do resin casting know, you're familiar with flashing, where if the mold has like a little bit of space in between it, the resin sort of seeps out. The same is true of plastic. Plastic will interact like a liquid, right? Because it's heated up, it's basically a liquid that you're injecting into an open space, a negative space, and then it sort of fills the negative space and becomes a positive. Same theory, it's just a little bit of the mechanics behind it. Now, once the plastic has heated up, and the plastic, by the way, is just sort of inserted by pouring it into this little, top area here, this little cup. These are perler beads. It's a mix of black and green. I'm doing a camouflage style figure, which I can show you if we have time up in the office. If not, I'll post it to Instagram. Once it heats up, what you'll do is you'll take your mold here, and I apologize, I'm sort of free-handing this with my phone. You'll take the mold, you'll put it into the vise, and then you tighten the vise. And you can see that I've gotten some ways to sort of customize the space to sort of get this nice and clamped down. I got a couple of pieces of wood surrounding it, and because I've got one hand, I'll just sort of simulate what I normally do. But if you do this, invest in good vices, because what's going to happen is if you put a vise around your mold, it's going to be able to keep that flashing down. If you can get that really nice and tight, so when the force of the plastic comes down, it doesn't expand the mold and you don't get that extra flashing. So you want that grip to be as tight as possible. Once you've got it nice and tight, make sure that you're wearing, because we're dealing with hot plastic. And what you do next is, once the plastic is ready, once the mold is fully secure, you just simply give the plastic to push into the mold. You can see here, inject molding machine pulling. I've been ways here at this sort of prep for it's a lot of force. So may the force be with you. And what you also want to do is ensure that the mold
It's getting a little bit choppy, Justin, if you can hear me. Okay, I think it finally cut off, but I think he'll probably jump back on here in a second. Well, definitely asking some of these questions. It looks like Zimico is answering one about resin spills inside of a pressure pot. Is to pour a layer of silicone in your pressure pot. Yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense. Pouring a layer of it. I've seen other people get like silicone like sheets. I've seen them cut to size and then put that in it, or kind of line the pressure pot with that. But just pouring a layer on there, I think that would probably work too. And then just leave it in there. Yeah. Pour a layer of silicone on top of that. So, okay. Yeah, that's shoot, man. I don't know. That's I would listen to Zimico any day of the week when it comes to freaking pressure pots and toy making. There you go, Justin. I can see you, Justin. Whenever you're ready, man, just let us know. But we got about 90% through that demo on the injection molding there. He leveled up the bottom with resin and then did a layer of silicone on top of that. That's what Kajiki did. So that's nice. Okay. Justin, you ready? I'm going to click back over to Justin real quick.
Can you see me, Brian?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just walking back into the house. I apologize, everybody. I knew that the reception out there wasn't the greatest, but I can still talk you through the process. So I think you guys probably
Perfect.
saw it, Brian, and feel free to fill me in where we left off. I don't know where it cut out.
So you had just poured the perler beads in there and said that you were going to do a kind of like a camouflage type figure, and then it started getting real spotty right after that.
Sure. So basically what I did was, the mold itself was actually in the vise. Once the plastic is at the right temperature, you can see the plastic started dripping out of the nozzle. You pull the lever down, the plastic will then be pushed into the mold, and you'll sort of look at the mold to see if you have any extra plastic coming out of the top of the mold. What I like to do is I like to keep a little bit of pressure there just to make sure that you give the plastic an opportunity to fill in all the little crevices. It also allows the plastic an opportunity to cool slightly in the mold. So when you pull it out, you allow the plastic to cool a little bit, and then you'll pop open the mold. So let me sort of turn it like this and kind of show you what an output would look like. So if I'm down in my shed and I just pop this open, I have plastic inside of the mold, right? It might be a little bit hard to see there. And these are actually, Brian, these are the arms that go with the flamethrower arm that you see here. And you can see I've got like venting in there as well that allows the plastic to sort of flow through. And then once the plastic cools out, you simply pop it out and trim it, clean it up, and then it's ready to go.
Wow.
And a lot of people will do like, one-part pieces and things like that. But if you've got articulation and things like that, that's where the planning comes into effect, right? You have to make sure that everything fits nice and flush. And I appreciate you saying that the waist and stuff like that fit flush, because that was a big problem that I had when I first tried to do it. I could not get that to work, and I was just about ready to chuck the injection molding machine out the door, man. It was so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I finally figured it out. That's the way it always is, right? When you're the most frustrated, you want to give up. And then you have the breakthrough. The light bulb goes off. That's always the way it's been for me.
Yeah. Now, if somebody that's watching right now, they see that setup and they think, "Hey, I want to try to do that." What's going to be their first step into doing that? Can you point them in the right direction as far as the machine?
So, what I would say is, if you're thinking about getting into injection molding, do your research, right? Look at the prices. That's what you want to look at first. Is injection molding something that fits within your budget? Don't think impulsively. Think, financially responsibly, right? Because the last thing you want to do is buy an expensive machine and then it sits there and you're not able to use it the way you want. There's nothing more frustrating than that. And I speak from experience there, because that thing sat in my shed for 2 years before I was really able to get anything out of it. And that was really kind of a demoralizing thing. So what I would do is research the different machines that are out there. If you want a lower cost machine, there are ones that you can build yourself. Buster Beagle is a company that offers those. The machine that I have is from Tech Kits. And the guy that runs the website will tell you about the machine and different things like that. And I can't think of it. There's another third-party company where you can sort of build your own. It's a little bit more economically responsible. And the other thing to do is think about what you want to produce, because if you're thinking about producing one of those beautiful pieces that Dre produced that was really big, you're going to need a big machine, which is going to be even more money. The machine that I have, like I said before, only produces for one pull down a piece of plastic that's maximum 1.1 inches. So anything bigger than that or close to that, it's not going to fill the mold properly, and it's just not going to work out. So know what you want to produce. And then the best thing that I ever did, Brian, was to talk to people, not watching, I love Craftsman, but, not necessarily watching his videos or, some sort of influencer, but actually talking to people that work in a factory, people, that do this for a living. That's how I was able to make some breakthroughs with some of these toys, was actually talking to guys that run injection molding machines, 9 to 5, kind of thing, and their best practices. And there are a lot of great Facebook groups for injection molding and things like that, but it's not for everybody. It's a big investment. It's very frustrating. You have to sort of develop this like weird engineering skill set where you have to learn about draft angles and things that are really boring. I've actually had to do math calculations, if you can believe that, for some of this stuff, which is, it's just, I haven't done that since meteorology school with some of these, calculations. But the biggest satisfaction that I've had of any toy making has been to go from making dioramas to actually having one of these guys. And they're not the greatest toys in the world, I'll fully admit that. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the satisfaction of having been able to go through that journey has really been the payoff for me.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say there's got to be a lot of satisfaction knowing that you're doing it. Not only the material, and I think you're using the material. I don't know how common perler beads are, man. When you told me it was perler beads, it sounded very outside the box from what I'm hearing. But taking something like that, especially something that's so common, and I have two kids that are older now, but when they were growing up, I mean, we had buckets full of those things, and they probably all got thrown away. At some point, ones that weren't made into a shape, and then, like you said, ironed down with the wax paper on top to make them all melt together. But I mean, that is truly a little factory that you have going over there, man. Now, the block, the mold that you said, it was just that little 1x1 block. How is that made?
How is the mold made?
Yeah.
That the plastic's injected in? So this goes back to what I mentioned just a little while ago, which is this is what I designed digitally.
Gotcha.
So it's the digital square that I basically cut in half, and then I take whatever the model is, and then I make that indentation in the digital block, so to create the negative space. And then when I print it out, you've got the negative space and mold, much the same way that you would, pour silicone over, a positive space, and then when you pull out the positive, you have the negative space. Same concept, except it's engineered digitally. And I do that in ZBrush. I have a couple of techniques that I sort of figured out on my own to do that. But you have to do these like little venting tricks and draft angles and other little things that you find out from talking to people in the know.
Right. Wow, man. So what is on next? What's next on deck for you, man? I mean, I know that you had a lot of figures at Assembly Required. What direction is that going? Is that going to be a continuous line, or you got new stuff right around the corner?
So I think the thing that I've learned about this is that I would like to do more of the Kiers War original characters, but do them in a way where they sort of tap into some of those archetypes that people love, right? The skeleton warriors, the barbarians, the ninjas. Ninjas are, pay attention to that, because that's sort of what's coming out very, very soon for me, are going to be ninjas. But the scale might vary a little bit. I think that's where you might see a little bit of variation, but it's going to be my own original characters. For a while, I was making sort of like really not necessarily well-known B-movie characters, but I'd like to make my own characters and sort of build upon that, right, and sort of create that universe. And it seems like people are interested in that, and I'm very happy that people have, been gracious enough to spend their hard-earned money to buy something that I made out there in the shed that people accuse me of being like the Unabomber out there with all my devices. Things like that. But it's very much appreciated. Anybody that's ever liked one of my posts or listened to me yammer on, including listening to me yammer on in this podcast, it's very much appreciated. I really do appreciate it.
That's awesome, man. What about any in-person or online shows you got coming up?
Okay, so the funny thing is, I've only ever been invited to participate in two things: Assembly Required, and Mux Blank put on this show here in Columbia, South Carolina, which was my first show. It was retro toy gimmick, hip hop toys, and Mux, and we were down in the basement of an art building, and the basement flooded. I would love. It was great. We're standing there in this like puddle of water. Mux has got this like death metal music playing, and there are just these people kind of coming into like a toy show. Where am I? I'm in the basement of this art building in Columbia. But I don't know. I have to confess that I sort of feel like an outsider to a lot of these things. Like I'm never invited to participate in stuff. I would like to. If anybody would like to have me in, Scraps or Apocalypto or the wrestling thing that you mentioned, or any other show, I would be very much honored to be a part of any of those things. But I think, I also understand there are a lot of talented artists out there, and some of this work that I do maybe is not necessarily in the same lane as a lot of the artists that do the fabulous work that they do that you highlight on the show. Mine's probably a little bit more adjacent rather than maybe down that straight and narrow pathway that a lot of folks that do the resin casting do as well.
Yeah, and you know what though, man, I think that is one thing that's really cool about those shows is that you start seeing pieces from artists that wouldn't traditionally do something like that, but they're saying, hey, like Ninja Turtles, yeah, I'm into Ninja Turtles. I'm gonna make something, no matter what it is. And I know, Ninja Turtles was an open call. I know Robot Resurrection coming up at the end of March is an open call. I know that one's like right around the corner, but some of them, yeah, man, there's just, and then some of them pop up and it's like you find out it's in like 2 days and you're like, I've never even heard of that one before.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff, but it's cool, man. I hope you do get in some of those. I think that would be really cool to see. I'm excited to see where the line goes. And you said you're in South Carolina, correct?
Yeah, I'm based here in the capital, Columbia, South Carolina, the armpit of the state, where it's hot and humid most of the year.
The armpit of the state. When I was driving back from Asheville, I was going from Asheville to Charlotte, and there was an accident on a freeway, so it kind of rerouted me, and I actually dipped down into South Carolina real quick. And it's just so different than where I'm at, man, as far as, the space and everything is so far spaced out, and you don't have neighbors for 3 houses down and some of these flying over. That's what it looks like. And it's just, where I'm at, it's just so condensed, man. It's got to be a cool place to live out there.
Where are you in California?
I am about 35 miles south of Sacramento. So I'm
very cool.
considered
Very nice.
East Bay, but it is about the furthest East Bay. Like, I think the next city up is not considered Bay Area anymore. I certainly don't feel like I'm Bay Area. It takes me with zero traffic, I'm to San Francisco in about just over an hour. So
nice.
Now I said, with no traffic, which is a pipe dream, right? That doesn't exist out here. But it's still, it was 70 degrees today, man, like 72, not a cloud in the sky. I cannot complain about that. But
yeah,
anyways,
we have nice weather for like 2 weeks in the fall here in South Carolina, and it's always just miserably hot and disgusting most of the year. But
the humidity,
and you tell people you live in South Carolina, and people sort of have that, you get that like stigma associated with it. Sometimes I'm afraid to sort of list that in my bio because I think that people sort of have a preconceived notion of what that might entail with me being in South Carolina, being a Yankee that moved here from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, kind of a thing.
Oh yeah,
but we do have beautiful parts of South Carolina. I promise you that. And actually, Columbia's not a bad place.
Yeah, it is. It's a very nice state, man. Anything else you want to put out there, man, before we get going?
Yeah. So just a couple of pieces of advice to anybody that's thinking about getting into this. I remember when I met Grant at the very first Assembly Required. Grant came up to me as he had this lovely hat on. He gave me Battle Beast toys, and he was telling me that he was interested in getting into toy making, and I was really honored that he came up and he really liked this one toy that I made of a Battle Beast type figure of a dog that worked at a comic book store. But follow your passion. If you can do it, I believe that you can do it. So if you're thinking about getting into this, if you're watching this at some point in the future and you're thinking about it, give it a shot. But be financially responsible, and also be responsible. Balance your family time, right? That would be my advice, especially if it's somebody that's married and has kids, and you want to maintain a family life. And from a process standpoint, make sure that you plan. Invest the time on the front end for the planning, or you're going to have a lot of frustrations in the shed where I just was. Trust me, I've failed numerous times to the point where I've, in fact, right, I mentioned this at the show. Right before I had a success with those, I walked up to my wife and I said, I think I'm done. I'm so frustrated. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And then a light bulb went off, corrected a small thing, and then all of a sudden I was off to the races again. So don't give up, but invest in the planning up front. That would be my advice to anybody. And also, you mentioned that my prices were reasonable. I want people to have the stuff that I make. I don't want to sort of price myself out of a sale, but I also don't want to price myself out of a profit either. So,
sure.
Price is another very important thing as well. Oftentimes, as an artist, you look at something and you think of all the time you invested, and you sort of get this attachment to it, right? But you also have to be pragmatic about it as well. What is somebody willing to pay for it? What is the investment that you made into it? But also, what is it worth to you as well? The balance there.
Yeah, man. Speaking of selling, that is always such I mean, there's so many different views on that, man. And I think what you said right there was very key, because I think sometimes with artists, the time that they put into the piece, they want that to translate into the amount of profit on the piece. And let's be honest, man, the majority of the time it's not like that. When it's frustrating like that for you, how do you approach that, man? Do you ever sit down and go, God, I really need to work on my pricing? Or, either going up or down and say, hey, I think I left some money on the table there. I mean, gosh, that's got to be such a hard thing to gauge with the cost of materials, how many runs you're making, how many, how do you approach that?
I think what you do initially is you think of it like, your monthly budget, right? You put down the material cost, you put some sort of hour association with the hours that you put into it, and you make a calculation. You take an objective view in terms of what the actual value, the material value and the time value is into something, and then you balance that again against, what time of year is it? Is it right after Christmas time when everybody spent all their money? Is it right before Christmas time when people were flush with cash? And also, what is your attachment to it? Can you step back and say, you know what? I'm probably a little bit more attached to this piece than maybe somebody else might be.
Yeah.
I had this moment right before I released the Schlock Troopers. So I made a bunch of Schlock Troopers, which were these resin cast sort of small run Glyos figures. I made a bunch of them. I was really excited. There was a lot of social media engagement. I put them on the site, and I think I probably priced them just a little bit too high. And quite frankly, I probably just got maybe a little bit too greedy. And the sales did not meet the expectation, did not meet the social media engagement. And I learned a big lesson from that. And I had to sort of do a lot of self-reflection about, what's the time that I'm willing to put into this? What's the price that's associated to it? And all the other little factors that you have to, incorporate into something. And also, what is somebody else that's doing similar work to you charging? Are you charging, significantly less? Do you need to up the price, or is somebody charging significantly more? It just sort of depends on whatever the use case is, and it's going to be different for every person out there. But do yourself a favor and sort of have that out of body experience where you step out of the artist space and step back into the pragmatic space. And I think that would benefit anybody in terms of some of the pricing and planning processes that they have.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's a tricky one, but that's, I think you said the self-reflection on, what other people are making and how much they're selling it for. That's going to be a wide range of stuff too, man. But I think sometimes you have to kind of be realistic and say, what am I making? How good is it? And what's that worth? I think that really plays a lot, not only into how much you sell immediately, but also into longevity. And I mean, you always want to give yourself some room to grow, right? Like if you're high right now, you can't keep going higher and higher, because at some point you're gonna hit a quality mark where now your stuff is higher than people whose stuff is quite honestly better than yours. So that's, gosh, man, just another tricky part of it. Well, you seem to have a good wrap on it all, man. I mean, doing injection molding at your house is just kind of something on its own. But the variety of figures that you have, the number of figures that you had at AR, man, it's very, very cool, dude. You are an interesting man, I'll tell you that. With the paranormal stories, the dog stories, the reporting, the toy making, the injection molding, dude, I feel like we could sit here for probably 3 more hours and have no time killing it,
And I didn't even talk about my hurricane planning and hurricane evacuation stuff, or my shadow person paranormal story, the negative paranormal story, which that was a bad one. I'll just put it at that. But if I ever do a shadow person action figure, you can have me back on the show and I can tell that story.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. The minute you start working on that, let me know. We will get you back on here and go over that again, man. Dude, thank you, Justin, for coming on, man. That was an awesome time. Like I said, man, we're about 10 minutes over, but I really think that we could probably go on for much longer. That was super interesting, man. Not just only from you as a person and kind of your background, but injection molding. I think that's the first time that anybody's ever done injection molding on the show, and we're on episode 95 now. So if anybody wants to know about injection molding, absolutely, I'm going to point them to this episode, dude.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And if anybody out there has any questions, whether it's about anything I talked about today, or you want to hear the paranormal story, or more importantly, if you have a process question about the injection molding, feel free to send me a direct message on Instagram, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has out there.
Awesome, man. So if you guys read the bottom there, it's Kiers Customs, Kiers. Follow him on Instagram. Also, there is a link to the shop in there. Get in there and check out some of those. Keep an eye out for any drops coming up. Take a look at the reels on there. They're super interesting. And like I said, if there's any questions on injection molding or anything like that, hit Justin up. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to talk to you and kind of walk you through it. Again, man, thanks for your time, Justin. Really appreciate you coming on, man.
It's so much fun. Thank you for having me.
You got it, buddy. Take it easy.
Peace.
Boom. Kiers Customs, man. That was a freaking interesting interview. I love a 2-hour show, and there's sometimes when I hate a 2-hour show, man, because I feel like I'm stuck to a 2-hour show. And I know on the East Coast, people need to really get moving. But what an interesting dude. And, talk about someone who's running a factory from their house. That's exactly what he's doing. And he's killing it. There's some really original work going in there. The feel of these things, of these figures, is very cool. The marble work on it is very cool. And the randomness of the of the swirl that you get. I mean, did you notice that when he basically took a cup of perler beads, it just it randomizes it, right? Whatever you dump in there, that's what you're going to kind of get. So let's see. So the last thing we got on the list tonight is 2 more giveaways. Actually, it's 1 giveaway. One giveaway on 2 different pieces, but it's 1 giveaway. So it's going to be Ordinary Toys right there. Take a look at that. You get the little Care Bear and you get the hand. And quite a few Ordinary Toys stickers. Bam. One of the best logos out there. I love that one. Ordinary. Bam. That one. Ordinary Toys. You're going to get that. And you're also going to get the clear Boba Fett from Plastic Vomit. That thing is super clear. You almost couldn't even see it in the picture, in the post picture. Really, really nice. Take a look at the bottom scroller there. I did put some news about some of these artists right here. Clear Boba Fett 3.75 is by Plastic Vomit Customs. If you're not following them, they do a lot of drops of 3.75 figures on Instagram and on Facebook. Make sure you give them a follow. Really good pricing on these two. They sell a lot of figures and they're all super quality. They sell a lot of them for a reason, because they're really, really good, really well priced. Next week, we have Sewer Showdown preview show coming up. We have Slime City Toys is going to be here. They're from Canada. Epoxy Crusader from Mexico will be here. Titty Bean, of course, everybody's favorite, from Australia. And the Sewer Showdown founder and promoter, Dimension X Toys. He's from here in the States. That'll all be next week. Please follow and support all the artists that were on the show tonight. There's another little thing about Ordinary coming up here. If you guys haven't been into Ordinary Toys store lately, there's 1 Celestratron left. I highly recommend that piece. It's $50. You should buy it if you're looking for a super sick original 3.75. The card is great. It's a nice big card, bagged. Super sick piece. If you're looking for that, there's 1 Celestratron left. Congrats to whoever picks that up, because it's a sick piece. It's one of my absolute favorites. And there it is. Follow Ordinary Toys on IG at Ordinary Toys, or the shop Ordinary Toys at .etsy. All right. Yeah, fuck those Etsy feeds. I feel you. That's, I hear that a lot. I do like the Celestratron. Somebody should get in there and buy that so he can close that store. All right, let's do another giveaway. Let's get these two things out of here. I'm gonna share the screen. Let me find the number generator real quick. There it is. This was going up to 43. All right, here we go. Screen share. Here we go. For the plastic vomit piece and ordinary toys pack. Here we go. Good luck. Number. All right, number 30 was the winner on that one. That is going to be. Oh, look at this. Oh, gosh darn it. Number 30. Look at this one, man. Second week in a row. Isn't that crazy? Tone Twisted Tiger with another. What did he win last week? Oh man, last week he won a plastic vomit, the carded piece, the Shadow Trooper. Great win, man. Yeah, the Dre piece tonight won by Jazz Wizard. This next pack won by Tone Twisted Tiger. The Ordinary Toys pack and the Plastic Vomit Boba Fett. Congrats, dude. Very nice. All right. So next week, really good show. Next week, we are going to start going over the Sewer Showdown. There's going to be 4 guests on the show. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get all prepped up for the Sewer Showdown coming up the following week. Myself and Abe from Toys on Tap will be presenting that one. We're going to go piece by piece, kind of like we did with the Apocalyptico show. That show is going to be a long one. There's over 100 artists in that show, in the Sewer Showdown. That's going to take us a while to get through. We're going to start early, and we're going to start going through it right away. So make sure you tune in for that. That's in 2 weeks. In 1 week, we're going to do the preview show. We'll show off some pieces next week. I got a box full of new Healy stuff there. This Czar face from Super 7. I never show commercial stuff on here, but I thought that was cool. So we'll go over that next week. Episode 95 in the books. Thank you to Kiers Customs and Dresease coming through for tonight and giving me some of their time. Talk about it. Follow each one of those artists. Give them their support. They both have stores that are going to have stuff in them. Kiers Customs already has stuff in the store. Dre store is going to be full of stuff here in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. That's it. Episode 95. Watch for the giveaway post next Wednesday. And then, of course, your regularly scheduled posts before that. That's it. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for coming in. Stay safe.